Well, yeah, that's what I said.
And we're live.
Hey, everybody.
What up, everybody?
Welcome to Finding Out Theorios, your favorite conspiracy podcast.
Cheers.
Cheers to that.
With me are the fellow co-host. Okay. We're following through on the Tim McVeigh story. We didn't let Drake talk last week, so we got to do that. And then we're moving on into Ruby Ridge and Waco. I think there's a lot there, so we'll see how much we get through. But that's kind of the trajectory.
Yep.
Current events, though? Y'all know
Yeah, I don't have much on. I mean, we're going to end up plugging ourselves here, but we did start doing current events on Sundays. So we're going to have Funny Nut News on Sundays at like 8:30 in the morning. So come share a morning cup of coffee with us and talk about what's happening in the news and politics.
Ruin your day right off the bat by talking about politics at 8:30 in the morning.
Your day off.
You can also catch it Monday while you're on your lunch break on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah. We need to get better at clips because I think there were some clips that could have came out of that Sunday episode, but I can't remember what it was.
Oh, I just want to like brag. I've never had a video that has ever had like a ton of views ever, but I posted a very short YouTube reel on my YouTube channel, and it got over 1,000 views since like yesterday. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, I've never had this ever happen. So this is what some people feel like. And it's only like 1.3 thousand, which is cool, but not like some people. And it's like, I don't know. It's crazy.
That's dope.
So
go follow Drake.
Yeah, go follow me on YouTube, please. And then follow us on YouTube as well.
When I was uploading to TikTok, it would do that. It would be random videos, though. It's just like something in the algorithm that doesn't make any sense. We'll go.
I used certain hashtags, I think, that really worked.
You cheated. Cool. That's fair. And 11 more. Current events. Did y'all see Woody Harrelson on SNL? We didn't see it Sunday.
I saw a link about it, but I do not watch SNL. So no.
Isn't watch together.
Fuck yeah.
I don't have that pulled up because I'm a freaking idiot. Oh my
God. Just like Napoleon Dynamite would say.
Now you have to touch Discord and all the things are going to disappear.
Things?
Oh, never mind. You did it.
I'm losing some FPS, but we're good, I think. Talk about
not getting vaxxed. Holy shit.
I mean, that's a pretty incredible statement. He kind of walks it back by saying, I do that every day.
Yeah.
But that went viral or semi-viral. And
he just called the U.S. government a drug cartel.
I bet SNL was like, you'll never be on here again.
They probably the ones that wrote it.
It's because it was timed so perfectly with the Department of Energy for some reason deciding that COVID came out of a lab.
Yeah.
Did y'all see that?
No, but that's what we were talking about before the
No.
show. That I wanted to bring up that the government's officially saying now that it came out of a lab. Right.
So what was told in 2020 wasn't a lie. Holy shit.
That's the other point of it. Like Trump was crucified for saying that, right? Like canceled.
Yeah.
You can't fucking say that.
It wasn't just Trump. It was like
A lot of people.
thousands of people on the internet.
Literally, the country divided between unvaxxed and vaxxed for a full year.
Yeah.
Like, I know people that were like, I will never hang around vaxxed people. Or unvaxxed people, I'm sorry. I will never hang around unvaxxed people. And it's like, wake the fuck up.
Okay, so this is how it got out. The Energy Department concluded with low confidence that COVID began after an unintentional lab leak. What? Which cited a classified intelligence report to the White House and members of Congress. That read weird.
Where did you get Department of Energy?
That's who it is.
You just said White House. I don't know.
Oh, I didn't.
ODH.
No, I said
Anyways,
the Department of Energy.
you said White House press secretary or something.
No, it was cited in a classified intelligence report that was provided to the White House and Congress. But it's weird that the Department of Energy didn't talk about that at all.
Yeah, like what does COVID or the coronavirus have to do with
Oil?
energy?
Who knows, dude?
Who knows
Probably
for
It's
sure?
probably another distraction. Who knows?
Another distraction.
We'll
for
probably
sure.
find out in a few weeks.
So, I mean, just sticking with current events, today actually falls on the 30-year anniversary of Waco, which happened on our show organically that it's coming up tonight. Like, I feel like it was kind of unplanned, but coincidentally,
I had no idea.
our intention of talking about Waco tonight falls on the 30-year anniversary. So,
The
February
start.
28th, 1993 was when the bullets started flying, yeah. Of course,
Yeah,
it was a 51-day event, so
Yeah,
we could be talking about it for the
Question.
next 2 months.
that's what I was going to say.
Question: is the movie Red State based on Waco at all?
Loosely, it's like
Loosely,
it's
like
like
that, and like Jim Jones, maybe not.
Yeah, it's like
really,
a interpretation of the situation that
Kinda.
happened in Waco.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think that he was like, this is Waco. He was like,
Yeah, it's
Waco
like,
was a crazy story. What if I adapt a character?
okay, so like Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't like a real story. It was based on like Ed Gein.
Ed Gein,
That's what I'm talking about. Like
Yeah.
it was kind of loosely based off that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Red State,
Continue.
which is a great movie. by
Red
the way.
State is a great movie. Go watch it.
Kevin Smith, John Goodman, Michael Clark.
John Goodman. Yes, you took his name first. Fuck you.
John Goodman's in Red State?
I do a show
Yeah.
about that shit.
I know, and you whooped my ass at it, or Adam Moore whooped my ass at it the other
At the
day.
games, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a super recent movie. I haven't seen it. I forgot about that. But I
No,
need to, like,
dude,
watch
that movie's old. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
used to
probably-
watch it with our buddy Jack all the time. Like
I
way
say
back
recent.
when.
I mean, like within the last 10 years, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's probably right at
Yeah.
10 years.
I don't know why I call 10 years recent. I think
That
the
was
older
Drake's
you
book.
get, you're like, 10 years wasn't that long ago.
2011, so it's been 12 years.
Oh man, so
It's all
yeah,
relative.
you're wrong.
Oh my God. Plus or minus 2 years.
It doesn't matter. Let's get into. So we were talking about
Go ahead.
the Oklahoma City bombing. We kind of went over Timothy McVeigh and the events of the day a lot, but there's a couple of sub stories, and one of them, basically the craziest one, is what you read about. Is that right, Drake?
I read about a crazy cover up, which
What was the
is
guy's
very
name?
unfortunate. His name is Terrence Yakey.
Yeah,
Yakey.
something like that.
Yeah.
Let's go with Yankee.
Okay. It sounds better than Yakey.
Yeah. Here's what I know, and then you go full on. He was a Oklahoma City cop who was there responding that day. Learned too much. Bad things happen.
Okay, I don't even need to talk. Thank you.
No. Like you got all the details.
No, like yeah,
Work it out.
that is no, like you summed it up perfectly. That was perfect. So Cliff Notes. It was definitely an FBI cover up. So like you said, so Terrence Yaki, however we want to pronounce it, he was an Oklahoma City cop. From the people who knew him, he was a caring man who put others' needs before his own. So there was 168 deaths in the OKC bombing.
Yeah.
And 19 children in that 168. So Terry was able to save 8 different people, which is very amazing. So he wasn't even responding to like the police scanner. He was around that area already and just heard it go off. So he just fucking flew over there and just immediately didn't even think about his own safety, didn't even think about anything other than like, okay, this building is blowing up. I got to get people out. And he immediately just like flew in and just was like a fucking superhero. And he saved 8 people. He was one of the first, like I said, he was one of the first to arrive on the scene. He played a major role in the rescue and recovery operations.
He was like a standout cop.
Yeah, like he is the cop that we want to like. If we get pulled over, we want it to be him.
Yeah,
you know, because he's like
you could replace every cop with Terrence Yaki. Basically, you would.
Yes, absolutely.
I might be preempting your next point. He applied to a government agency and he was about to move to Dallas.
Who? Wait, say that again.
Yaki. He was like in the process of moving to Dallas because he was joining the FBI or something, he was joining.
Honestly, I didn't see that. I know a little bit of other things.
Okay, yeah, never mind then. Keep going.
That
might be. So I don't sound stupid. How do you spell Yaki? What the fuck?
I got it right here.
Yeakey. So yeah, he was the first to arrive on the scene. One of them. He is portrayed a hero. So like after the bombing was done, people were like seeing him around town and they were just praising him. And he was the type of guy that didn't want that. He would shy away from it. And he never wanted fame. He was just like, I signed up to be a cop in order to protect and serve, just like it says. And he was literally about to receive the Medal of Valor by the OKC police department
for his actions at
the bombing. Yeah, thank you.
That's crazy.
So it's amazing. So it was a year after the bombing. So the bombings were on for the April 19th, 1995. So he was about to get that on May 11th. So just a little bit before the 1 year anniversary. 3 days. I'm sorry. 3 days before, on May 8th, is when Terry supposedly committed suicide. His death shocked everyone because, like I just said, he was about to receive the Medal of Valor. His police lieutenant, he was saying that he was talking to Yaki about his future and like the potential that was going into it, and Yaki was like responding perfectly normal, and there was no sign of like him wanting to kill himself at all. So it was a huge red flag from the beginning. And especially when you dig into, which I will in a second, like his death, it's like a Kurt Cobain, like it just doesn't make sense at all. So his friends, let me slow down. His body was discovered near a field in his home, near his home. Like he basically was leaving because he was being tailed by the FBI for a while because he started to build up a case, because when he arrived on scene and as he was saving these 8 people, he found something that no one knows about, unfortunately. he found something on the scene that made it seem like it was an inside job, and that's the whole reason that he was like, "What the fuck?" So after that, that's when he started his own private investigation, and then the FBI caught onto it, and they started tailing him.
Yeah,
so the FBI.
I think he was like the people he worked with knew that he thought they were lying about Oklahoma City, and actually, I think so. He was found in that field.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had told someone earlier in the day that he was going to his storage.
So what he told his family, from what I read, is his family said his last words were, "Oh shit, I lost it. I don't want to fuck it up." He said he told his family, "As soon as I shake these feds that are following me, I will be back and we will go to dinner." And that was the last thing he said his family said before he left to lose those FBI agents. So I want to break into it's a fucked up story, man. Like when you really read about it and you kind of go in deep with these different everything about it is just fucked up. Like there's no way you could do this to yourself and it be from a hold on.
You're saying like his actual suicide?
Like his actual suicide. Yeah, like his body was mutilated. So Terry's body was found mutilated with a gunshot to the side of his head. His arms, his wrists, his elbows were slit. He had 2 stab wounds in both sides of his neck.
What the fuck?
He had road burns on his neck, which made it look like he was carried. He had handcuff bruises on his wrist. There was no evidence of alcohol in his body or anywhere around the scene. People wonder how he could have gotten... Okay, so he was...
He's anemic.
2.5 kilometers away, which is about, like, I think a mile and a half.
From his car in
his field. So they say that, like, he was in his car, and that's when he, like, stabbed himself in the neck, and then he walked all the way over a mile and a half and then ended it with a gunshot. So he had...
This thing I'm reading says there was an extremely large amount of blood found in his vehicle.
Yeah, it was like splattered with blood.
Yeah. Something else I had seen said he was anemic. I mean, imagine bleeding that much and then walking a mile and a half, but to do it anemic, I don't think you get much further than a football field.
No, not if you're like stabbing yourself in the neck.
Yeah, it's where you're...
And slitting your wrist.
Yeah, this says he'd been bound, had rope burn on his neck, ligature marks on his wrists, numerous deep cuts, likely tortured and killed execution style with a single bullet entered in his right temple.
Yep. So that's... Everybody was wondering how he would have gotten that far. Everyone was saying he would have bled out. So the fatal shot was to his head was taken at a 45-degree angle, pointed downwards. And they said he would have needed to stretch to like angle the gun, so it would have been like real fucking awkward, just like Kurt Cobain's. According to unarmed officers, unnamed officers who were present at the crime scene, there was no weapon found initially, and then the fucking FBI helicopter swoops in like we're in a fucking movie, and boom, then they find the gun. So it's kind of funny how that shit happens. They say the two... What? Go ahead.
To go back to the thing I brought up where I was trying to find it. This paragraph I'm reading from the Free Thought Project. So grain of salt, whatever. This says the real story behind Yakee's death, as attested to by his ex-wife, is that... Oh no, wrong paragraph. Far from being suicidal, Yakee was in the process of achieving some major life goals. He was scheduled for an interview for a job with the FBI in Irving, Texas.
So you were right.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And they were using that to explain that, like, it's ruled a suicide. We're going through the gruesomeness of it, so it's probably not a suicide. But on top of that, he wasn't suicidal.
No. No, he was not at all. His family said that. His closest friends have come out and said that. And that's what's so freaking fishy about this. So in the official story, they say the reason that he committed suicide was he was driven by guilt and sadness because he couldn't save others. So like more than the 8, which he saved 8 people, which I know there was 160, I believe I said 168 people that died in this.
Yeah.
So he saved 8 of them, so that makes 160 that he unfortunately couldn't save. But at the same time, that's not his fault. That is like
that math didn't work out. No, sir.
What did I do?
It would have been 176. But
107. My bad. Sorry. But it's.
I don't understand how he has that much mutilation to his body, like a neck injury, like bound by the wrist.
They were torturing him before they killed him.
No, I mean, like for any rational person, be like, oh,
suicide.
The suicide. That makes most sense.
Well, there was weird stuff after he died, as far as
his
stuff.
His death was barely looked into. Like the investigation was not looked into that long at all. His family was like trying to fight because the investigation was shut down so quick. And
I think he was like, they didn't do an autopsy or something. Like they.
Yeah, I wrote about that here too. Yeah, his body was like shipped off. I guess it was. I don't know what happened to his body. I guess it was buried, but I think the investigation was brief. There was no indication of murder. And it received little pushback from the media. That's what I found. An alternative narrative believed is by many people is that Terry's family was questioning the official report, which I would too if I was in their family. They claimed his death was a murder and local police helped cover it up. So whatever he found that day, everybody didn't want a part of it. Everybody was like trying to shut him down immediately. He was trying to be the good guy. He tried to be the hero again, and he was a hero. And unfortunately, they took him out and they tortured him before, which is just awful because they didn't just give him a quick death. They wanted him to know, like, this is what happens when you fuck with us.
Yeah. This says Yaki had compiled his findings in his storage facility outside of El Reno, adding weight to the theory that he was suicidal to keep him quiet, like that he had something in that storage facility. But I'm looking for like.
So yeah, there was a lack of investigation with his autopsy. It fell through just like JFK's, where the doctors are like changing notes and shit, and they're like, "No, that didn't happen. This happened."
I was looking for information on like what happened at the storage facility then, or like normally when someone dies, it's up to their family to get like an autopsy or something. So why was that not in the? Why didn't they have the ability to do that? Is a question.
Where did it
Part of the cover up, obviously.
His family said there were no signs of despair or guilt from his personality or mood leading up to his death. I was kind of mentioning it earlier, like. His lieutenant was discussing his future with him 2 days before his death as being optimistic. He was inspiring and brought joy to his unit. Skeptics of the official police report link his assassination with his investigation into the OKC bombings. Obviously, he claiming he was silenced by the federal government to not expose their part of the terroristic attack. His friends and family said they became aware of something disturbing at the bomb site, which led him to reject the official story of the bombing. Over the next year, they began a private investigation, which they found evidence to cover up. That was covered up by federal agents.
Look, Jeremy found something.
Hell yeah.
Although the Yaki incident occurred some 30 miles away in a different jurisdiction, the investigation was quickly taken out of the hands of El Reno police and the Canadian County Sheriff and turned over to OKC PD and the FBI. No homicide investigation was ever conducted, and there was no autopsy.
God. See, it's just so fucking crazy. And they were tailing him, they were intimidating the shit out of him. Like,
here, this is what I saw. It says Sergeant Yaki has told his friends that he was going out of town to hide or secure evidence of a cover-up. It was his day off, and this is the day this is basically the day it happened. That's crazy.
So
his wife is still what?
His wife what?
She's continuing to get death threats. Her home has been broken into and personal threats have been written on her living room walls. She remains in fear for her life, constantly seeking asylum with no place to turn.
Dude, are you serious?
That's insane.
There was a case I think we were talking about where they were trying to intimidate. Was it Whitewater? I can't remember. I think we were touching on it with the Clintons and the Whitewater stuff. They were trying to intimidate somebody, and
on like they did some shady real estate deal or something.
I think it involved like firearms or something. But anyways,
I think so too. I couldn't get that deal.
Anyways,
it was part of the gun running thing and the drug running thing that we talked about in the War on Drugs, because they were flying into Arkansas, and that dude who became a whistleblower with the plane, the guy was flying everything. What was his fucking name? He was flying into Arkansas. That's where he got arrested. He became an informant.
Why am I blanking? Yeah, why am I blanking?
there was some stuff that coming up with Waco that we're gonna get into. It ties back into the Clintons too, dude. Clintons
Barry Seal. Barry Seal.
Seal or Steel?
Seal, S-E-A-L. Wasn't he flying into Arkansas? Yeah. Seal moved his aircraft to Mena Intermountain Regional Airport, where he did maintenance and modifications, and then...
Oh, just a few last things on Yankee.
Yeah.
So there was no suicide note. I just wanted to add that. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything because his story is super important. Yeah, so there was no suicide note. Everyone was questioning this from the moment it happened.
Yeah, except the FBI.
Except the FBI, yeah, they were making, which is fucking crazy.
While you look for where you were, it's kind of weird to think about what he could have found.
No, that's what I was going to ask. Like, I want to know
what
he had stored in that storage unit.
And I'm pretty sure the FBI got rid of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I imagine it's gone now. But it's interesting.
No, it was
to think
gone like real quick because, oh man, I can't find where I fucking put that. But
I mean, did
either way,
have like bombs in a storage facility somewhere?
No, I think he just had like documents and information and just a bunch of stuff that he literally didn't tell anyone about it. And that's what's so crazy. He didn't tell any friends, any family members. He just kept it to himself where only he knew. So as soon as they took him out, they were like, we don't have to worry about anything else. We just got to get rid of it.
Oh, yeah. He didn't keep that he was doing it to himself. He kept all the information that he was gathering to himself. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned he was telling his wife.
I misinterpreted you and then said it out loud because I'm an idiot. Anyway, what were you saying, Jeremy?
No, I mean, he was telling his wife, obviously, but he wasn't sharing what he actually had. So there's no idea of what he actually would have had, what they would have been scared of. Right.
It's weird that he was like about to become an FBI agent too, right? Isn't that odd?
That's probably how they knew, like.
And then the FBI.
Dude, I don't know. Maybe he was only joining the FBI to get deeper into it because he was like, I can't get past the police department. I need to fucking get in there.
I think it was a long process, and he had already.
I don't think it's like blanketly the FBI. It might have been like people within the FBI, right? Like he probably government. Well, he probably thought the FBI was safe. Like, I mean, as an overarching thing, like I could get my foot in the door. Like that was probably his life aspiration, right? But then there was like a bad group of eggs within it that were like, "Fuck this guy, dude."
Yeah, they didn't care that he had just.
Well, I mean, you hear about it all the time, especially in this Waco shit. Just like the malpractice, malpractice isn't the right word, but just the blatant like
disregard.
There's no rules. There's no procedures. There's no anything. They just do whatever the fuck they want. Dude, Waco is a fucking shit show. Some of the stuff that just the soldiers, foot soldiers on the ground doing to people within the compound.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, and even a lot of it came from Waco's crazy. Was there anything?
No, just like a shout out to Terry Yankee.
Yeah. Pour one out for the homie, dude.
Pour one out for the homie.
But that's. Are
we going to do that every time there's a dead whistleblower?
So this was all in the wake of the Oklahoma bombings, right?
What'd you say?
This was all in the wake of the Oklahoma bombings?
Yeah.
Which was 95, I think. We should know this.
Yeah, it was 95. It was April of 95, the OKC bombing.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So where you are going back in time, because I'm gonna go with the Ruby Ridge, which is
93 was Waco. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 72 was Ruby Ridge.
No. Ruby Ridge was months before
Ruby
Waco.
Ridge was. Oh yeah.
I should have wrote that down.
But it was 93 that was Waco.
Right.
So Ruby Ridge was 92. So plus
Oh,
or
I was
minus-
right.
plus
Oh, look
or
at
minus
that. I
month.
was
92.
right.
You said 72.
You did say
I
72.
meant 92. That's my bad.
Oh yeah. Well, that's
Dude, I'm
wrong.
stuck in the Manson era.
Hell yeah. That's a great episode. Go watch that episode if
2
you've
or
never
3
seen
episodes ago. Yeah.
Manson.
So we're gonna zip back in time to 92.
Well,
And
yeah,
you're gonna-
but to reiterate on the connection between them, so the Waco bombings were the result of Tim McVeigh's actions, and so what kind of led us on the research to Waco was him tying it to Waco, right?
yeah, his excuse of
His
doing the Waco bombing-
justification.
Yeah, there you go. That's the actual right word for it. Was to bomb the ATF, who was in charge of Ruby Ridge and Waco, and he
Right.
did so at the Edward R. Murrow building, which the ATF had a floor in, but they weren't there that day. We went over there last week.
Dude, it's all crazy shit. So I was
Oh.
trying to
And his other tie-in, I'm sorry.
No. tie it all together.
The other tie-in was that the conspiracy around Timothy McVeigh, that if he actually was working for the government, like he said, if you take his word, he was working for some intelligence agency to do that.
Well, no, there's
And
there's plenty of evidence that the ATF had operatives within some of these groups that they were trying to infiltrate. So
Yeah,
it
we
wouldn't-
talked about it was the PatCon operations. That was the name of it, was PatCon.
maybe I don't remember, but them like implanting like undercover agents within like Aryan Nation and all these other right wing white separatist kind of groups.
Well, I don't think it was all racist either. I think it was just like anyone who called themselves a militia, which very likely could all have been racist. Who knows?
Dude, that's the shit piece to this. So, and it might be intentional on the part of whoever's trying to subvert this information, but like anybody that is trying to be anti-government and rise up, I'm not promoting it. I never would promote that, but like you automatically get labeled and put in the groups of the racists and all this stuff. Like, why do you have to be a racist to think that the government's bad? Like, those two always seem to go in tandem. And like, I'm not anti-government, but I'm definitely not a racist. Like,
Yeah.
there's no middle ground.
No, yeah. I think the problem with it is that when you say the word militia, what is it called? You immediately identify it with like some backwoods racist dude.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you automatically get put in the same category as fucking Nazis or something like that.
But I do it too, so it's like weird that it is so synonymous that it is like implanted in everyone's head that if you hear the word militia, that guy's obviously a racist. It's weird that has been placed in everyone's head.
That's what I'm trying to say, is like it's intentionally driving the narrative that like it gives them the it's like a free pass to do shit to these people. And the reason I'm talking about it now, because it's very much was the motivation between the people involved with Ruby Ridge and Waco. Like, they had connections to some of these white separatist racist groups, but anybody that knew these families, the Weaver family in Ruby Ridge, and then dude, Waco's pretty insane because there was every ethnicity within Waco. There was like people from all around the world joining this group.
Oh yeah, no, there were like
it had nothing to do with
English
race.
kids running around.
No, like they were not like white supremacists by any means in Waco. They were just trying to follow like certain Christian values. Which
well, and so the Branch Davidians do get kind of crazy.
They do get crazy with the religious stuff, but
They're
I'm
a
saying it's
little
not a
zealous.
racist piece to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Timothy McVeigh himself did do a few sketchy things, but I don't believe that it is the proper, like, maybe he should have been in jail, technically not, but also probably don't just go blow up his fucking compound.
You talking about Timothy McVeigh, or are you talking about David Krishner? I'm going to have to learn these names, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about David Koresh.
David Koresh. So,
Did I say the wrong name? Damn.
you didn't say I said the wrong name. But you did say Tim McVeigh.
Yeah.
So, our main focus last week was it the week before? might have been the week before. I can't remember. But the OKC bombings was perpetrated by. I mean, the conspiracy is that it was Tim McVeigh, which is in question. I think at this point, right? That what really happened there. But
yeah, well, I don't think you can argue that he was there. I think and it's hard to argue that he wasn't. You can either argue that he was working on behalf of the government or he was a radical. Yeah,
that's what I was trying to say.
Okay, well,
I'm just saying he's the through line. So like he's the one that connects us back to Waco, and then from my train of thought, to better understand Waco, you have to go back to Ruby Ridge. Not that Tim McVeigh was involved in Ruby Ridge, but Waco was a result of Ruby Ridge almost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think contextually, Ruby Ridge is the first time that the ATF popped off and the government kind of showed their hand as far as how far they were willing to go. It was like the first heavily televised, militarized police.
You're saying
it was
Ruby
the
Ridge was?
Yeah, it wasn't televised, but it was the first instance of that happening that really got major media attention, right?
So I don't think there was like media. I mean, they did show up at the end, but it was after it kind of blew up. So I'm going to brush through Ruby Ridge because it's just, like I said, building context to the main focus, which is Waco, right?
Yeah.
So my understanding of Ruby Ridge, so there's a guy named Randy Weaver, which is kind of funny because it makes me think of South Park for a reason. Obviously, but
Integrity Farms.
No, it's a crazy story. So there's this guy, Randy Weaver. He's not that far extreme. The most extreme part of that dynamic is his wife, actually. I think her name was Vicky. If I have
Vicky
that right.
Valancourt? Let's call her Vicky Valancourt. I like that.
Randy Weaver. I was trying to find her name. I'm going to call her Vicky for now, but it might be something that starts with a V. But she's the one that had the more extremist beliefs, and I don't mean like white. It is Vicky Weaver. Okay, it was Vicky. So she's the one that had like the ultra, I guess, conservative views of like it. This story hits a little close to home for me because their ideas is kind of. I'm not gonna go there, but it hits pretty close to home for me under reasons that I don't want to get into, but. Their belief was they got heavily into Revelation, so New Testament stuff, that the world was actually ending and they had to go move into this part of the mountains and like self-isolate and like be self-sufficient, right?
Yeah.
So that's like her and her husband do. They buy some land up in the mountains in Idaho and move there and live completely self-reliant off of the land. Like they have a farm, they have like water collection stuff. Like this is like early 90s. So
hang on, can I pop out an idea? The way, we'll get into it, the way the Branch Davidians branched off is all based on Revelation.
Right.
Their religious view of basically he was reading the Seven Seals, which is like how Revelation happens. I don't know. But it's weird that they both have that weird tie-in to a specific part of the Bible, right? And like similar things happen. Is there a religious angle? Is that why the government is doing such egregious shit?
I wasn't going there with it. I was just saying that was their specific motivation. But the government wanted to, their justification for doing what they did was that they were white supremacists and needed to shut it down.
Yeah, no, I was pontificating.
No.
It doesn't. Go ahead.
The government's narrative was that they were white separatists trying to like overthrow the government. The unfortunate piece of the land that they bought, it was like 60 miles north of the actual Aryan Nation like compound. So that was kind of another loophole for the government to kind of do what they did. But
they got it so cheap. Nothing drives down property values like racism.
I don't know, man. But so there is evidence that Randy Weaver and his family were interacting with this Aryan Nation. They would go to like public outings and like picnics and stuff like that to intermingle with these people. The way I understand it, though, the only motivation they had for doing that was because they were self-isolated and they were the nearest community. So they would like travel down to this community. I mean, I'm sure they would like have meeting points and stuff like that, but they were going and attending community events. And every evidence speaks to that they would refuse to like become actual members because they did not align with their beliefs. And I should have wrote down the guy's name, but it's like something Butler. He's like the leader of the Aryan Nation. Does that ring any bells?
Gerard Butler.
No,
he was in 300.
no,
Leonidas.
that's a different guy.
No.
But
Okay.
I think his last name is Butler. But they were trying to recruit them. Like they were throwing these events to recruit new recruits. And so the Weaver family comes in and they're like, hey, you know, join us. And they're like, you guys are batshit crazy. You have the same Christian values we have, but we don't align with the racist part.
But damn, do you make a good potato salad?
Well, they have like fucking kids, dude. Like they have, I think they had 4 kids at one point, which we're gonna get into, but they had like kids intermingling with their kids. And so like, there's an innocence there, just at the very bottom middle. Like you want your kids to have friends and stuff like that, at least a social life. So at the bare minimum, like that might have been their motivation. But all evidence speaks to that they refused to join and like align with themselves with this stuff. So there was a separation of that.
Fair point. And the reason I think you're going so deep into it is because that is the line that's being toted, is that they were white nationalists. That's the official story. So it's important to like. There's kind of no proof of that. Is basically what you're saying, right?
I'm mentioning it only because that's where he meets the ATF or gets involved or gets flagged by the ATF, right? So he's at this social event and they're interacting and stuff. And within those events, there's undercover ATF agents, right?
Yeah.
And this is the part that... Go ahead.
Because of PatCon, what we were talking about, the government at the time, during the Clinton administration, had an entire modus operandi, an operation where they would they're infiltrating these militias. It's like a government-sponsored program that is happening, and it's tied into Ruby Ridge, Oklahoma City, and
100%.
Waco.
100%. So he's there at one of these communal events, and there are literally undercover ATF agents there. And this is the part that straight up felt like entrapment. They approach him, the ATF agents, saying, hey, we need some sawed-off shotguns to do this crazy act or something like that. And they're self-sufficient off the land. Like the only source of revenue they have is like selling some produce maybe, or like doing odds and end jobs and stuff like that. So Randy Weaver, I think, reluctantly says, yeah, I'll do this, you know, because it's a big chunk of money probably for them at the time. But he agrees to do this work on these shotguns where he saws off the barrels and the stocks, which is a federal crime, right?
Yeah.
That's the part to me that felt like entrapment. So they coerce isn't the right word, but they kind of like lead him into this felony charge, right? And so as soon as he agrees to do that, he does it. They book him. They arrest him. They say, hey, you have to give up your land as collateral for your own bail, right? So in order to
be bail bondsman.
Well, they didn't have a lot of money, so that was probably his only like financial piece that he had to offer as leverage. So just to get out of jail, he has to put up his land as bail, because there's a route for that within the system apparently. But he puts his land up for bail, and that's just to get out of jail. He still has a trial that he would have to go to, right? And so there's some like attorney general speaking to like, oh, you know, I would have gave him only 10 years or something like that. Some bullshit thing. But their motivation was to get him on board as just being another insider within this Aryan nation. So they book him on this charge. He puts up his land for collateral, for bail, gets out, and then he skips his actual trial, which is just, it pisses them all off, right? So as soon as he misses his trial, it goes to the U.S. Marshals, and they issue all this bullshit charges and stuff. And so they basically stake out his house, okay? So they don't approach him. They don't do anything. He obviously missed his trial, so there would be a warrant out at this point, but the U.S. Marshals stake out his place. They like put snipers in positions and have all this stuff because they have information from the ATF that he's some white supremacist guy that's always carrying weapons. So they automatically go into this hyper-aware, hyper-active state where they have to like stake it out. There's guns reported, so they're super high alert. So that's why the snipers having like outposts and stuff like that all around their land. They're just kind of feeling the way out. What's the best way to get this guy? Because the U.S. Marshals, their whole point is to come in and like arrest people that are out on bail that skip trials, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing. So they're staking out the place. At some point, their dogs get alerted that they're out there or something, so the dogs start freaking out and trying to like go into the woods and figure out who these people are.
They have just to kind of
good
paint a picture here. There's 2 dudes in ghillie suits on their land. and their son takes the dog outside and it starts running at them.
Right.
And so the scenario isn't like, I don't know. That's just insane when you paint it like that. Like, first, why are you there? Just go knock on the door.
Right. And that's kind of a parallel between Waco, which we'll get into, is that these guys, I mean, he missed his trial. I can't remember his excuse for missing the trial other than, like, I'm going to lose my house. Like, I don't want to, I'm trying to be self-sufficient from the government, and you guys are trying to drag me in.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the only other piece that I forgot to mention, when he did get arrested, Vicky writes a letter addressed as like the Queen of Babylon to like the fucking U.S. government or something like that, like saying you guys are just setting him up. It's crazy bullshit. So she gets red flagged as being some kind of like crazy target somehow. More so than Randy himself. Like they label her as the true threat, and Randy's just being manipulated by her at this point. Okay? That's going to come into play later. So back to where we left off. The dog runs into the woods trying to trace down these snipers or something. This is the conspiracy piece, but the son and their friend, I forget his name, I'm going to call him Nick, go out into the woods to try to figure out what's happening. This is the piece that doesn't make any sense, that nobody can tell me what really happened, but at some point, to shut the dog up, they shoot the dog, kill the dog, and then the son gets pissed off. And we don't know who shot first, but he's like, you killed my fucking dog. And then there's exchange of fire, right?
Well, yeah, and the way I understood the story too was that he didn't know that there were agents on the land.
It's private property.
Yeah, and so he walks out with his dog, and his dog gets shot by some dude in the woods. So he shoots them.
They don't bother identifying themselves as U.S. Marshals or anything like that.
Yeah. He shot them. I think he killed one or wounded one of them, and then they killed him.
He definitely shot one. I don't know if he died, but he definitely shot a federal agent, which triggers the FBI and the hostage something team we talked about earlier.
I think it's hostage recovery team.
Whatever it is, but they're like super elite special forces. They're like the Green Berets of the FBI.
Hostage rescue team.
But anyway, so that little transaction happens. The son, he was either 12 or 14 or something like that, gets killed on the spot, right? And so at some point, Randy goes and recovers the body, pulls him into their tool shed, and he stays there for the course of this 10-day event.
Because they shoot at him as he's pulling his son's body in.
Damn.
I mean, you have to imagine they're yelling things back at each other, but I don't know. I also don't know because he ran out to get his son's body and they fired upon him.
Yeah. So he carries his son back. I don't know how he ended up in the tool shed, but they go back into the house, spend the night, and then the next morning, Randy goes, hey, I'm going to go bury him. So he goes outside to bury his fucking son. It's 14, I just read it, but 14-year-old son, which is crazy. And they open fire at the dude.
Yeah.
And so Vicky, they have a teenage daughter, and then they have another daughter that's probably 5 or 6 years old, and then they have like a 10-month toddler.
Yeah.
So they're all in the house. Randy goes outside to the tool shed to get his son to bury. They open fire at him because
better dead than sawed off, I guess.
So Vicky freaks out. She's standing in the doorway saying, everybody get back inside now. There's shit going down. Get inside, get inside. They're on their way inside, and they're all under fire. They're running into their house, and Vicky gets shot in the head and dies on the spot.
Fuck.
I read that she was holding the toddler.
She was holding the 10-month-old toddler.
Yeah. That's right.
My understanding, if you're military, if you're federal agents, every shot is accounted for, right? You're looking down scope.
Yeah.
Trying to hit a moving target, trying to hit these targets. How do you not see a bullet hit somebody?
Yeah.
But
also,
what I'm getting into,
supposed to aim for center mass, but I guess she was holding a kid, so that means they were aiming at her head.
It was Randy and his friend Nick, and I think the way I interpreted
definitely aiming at her head.
It went through Nick into her or something like that. I don't think it was a direct. I'm not even going to say that because the way I understand it is after she wrote that letter, like addressing as Queen of Babylon and all this shit, like they red flagged her. So I think the conspiracy side of it is they had motivation to take her out.
Right.
Because they identified her, like I said, as the true source of the crazy, outlandish stuff, and Randy was being manipulated. So in the back of my mind is like they wanted her gone more so than anybody else there. So the point I was saying, like every bullet being accounted for, they shoot her in the head, they drag her inside, and they lock themselves in this cabin for 10 days. Over the course of those 10 days, the same people that just accounted for every bullet are... This is the other side of the conspiracy where I'm going to play the bad side of it. How do they not know she was dead? Because over the next 10 days, they're on like speakerphones going, "Hey, Vicky, why don't you come outside and cook some pancakes with the kids?" Like taunting. There's like, there's interviews of them with the daughter that's now like 30, 40. Like they're interviewing, they're like, they straight up felt like they were being taunted by the people that just killed their mother.
God. That's insane. Oh my God.
Man.
That's why I'm saying like every bullet accounted for.
Like waiting.
Like their excuse was like, we didn't know she was dead. Like we thought we were like hostage negotiating with this wife, trying to get her kids out of this house so we could take Randy out. How do they not know they got a kill shot on this person when?
What they say
when it's pretty obvious. So what happens at the end of the 10 days?
So this was the part that I didn't know either. So over the course of the 10 days, Nick, again, I don't know if that was his name, but it was Randy and Nick were the two guys they were trying to get on the charges for the sawed-off shotguns. Both of them were hit and injured within that gunfire exchange when he was going to bury his son. So at some point, Nick gets carried out because he's injured, and they're like, "Hey, if you don't let him out now, you're going to be charged for his murder because you're keeping him." So at some point, Randy's like cooperating, like lets them pick him up and take him to the hospital. At some other point, there was a presidential candidate, a third-party candidate that was running for president that year, that they got to do the hostage negotiation because it was the only person Randy would trust. And I think I wrote his name down somewhere. It's Gretz or something like that. Bo Gritz.
No.
He was a Green Beret with Randy.
Oh, okay.
And he was a third-party presidential candidate, and so they bring him in to do the fucking hostage negotiations. And so that's the only person Randy is working with. And at some point he says, "Hey, let Nick come out, or otherwise we're going to have to charge you with his murder." At some point he enters the house with a body bag to pick Vicky up and take her away because they're sitting there watching their mother and wife rot away in their cabin.
Yeah.
10 fucking days. And at the end of it, they said they had prayer meetings and stuff like that through the course of it, and the daughters and the father were all in line saying, "Hey, come in and fucking kill us. We're not leaving here without because that's our moral values. Like we're not submitting to the government."
Yeah.
And at some point, Bo Gritz gets through to Randy like, "Hey, you're the father. Like you're the one making these decisions, not your daughters," and stuff like that. And Randy concedes and straight up hugs Bo, and they all walk out together. Randy Weaver lived through all of this. He got acquitted. He was not charged. He's like a free man right now.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. I thought they all died. I thought they went in and blasted everybody away. But
I thought they blasted everybody away too.
Randy Weaver survives this. His daughter survives it. His other daughter survives it. The son and the 10-month-old. The son died, but I don't know about the 10-month-old. Obviously, it would have survived.
He died May 11th, 2022.
Okay, super recently.
Damn, super recent.
But he was acquitted. He wasn't actually, I guess, I don't want to say charged, but he was eventually acquitted of all the charges.
Damn, dog. His Wikipedia says self-proclaimed white separatist.
There were a bunch of journalists following the story as it was happening in Ruby Ridge, and they eventually get connected to the families, the extended families, the mothers and fathers of Randy and Vicky and all this, and they're like, no, they had nothing to do with that group. They were just super religious, trying to be self-sufficient away from the government. They didn't want anything to do with that, the corrupt, evil government. So they went on some land by themselves and try to ignore everybody, which you should be able to do.
Yeah. It says he was convicted of failing to appear and the sawed-off weapons charge, and he served 18 months, but his family ended up getting $3.1 million in compensation.
They settled out of court. So the daughter and I think Randy ended up with a big chunk of money.
That is so
You have
crazy.
a family of like 3 or 4, right? There's like 3 or 4 children with a mother and father, so a family of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
You have fucking like 200 troops there. Troops. FBI agents, police officers, helicopters, military vehicles to take out a family of 5. Like, what the hell is happening there? And I'm making that point to beckon to what's happening in Waco Ridge, right? Waco Ridge. The siege of Waco, because Waco is obviously a lot more. It's like a small commune, 100 and so people, right? But the military force they raised to Waco is disproportionate to the actual threat that was there, right? We'll get into it, but that is a reverb of what happened in Ruby Ridge.
The 10-month-old was a girl.
10-month-old was a girl. There's just a disproportionate response to the threat to what the FBI and the ATF and the police force all rose against this one singular family. Like, it did not warrant the force that they put on this. And I'm only making that point to say, we'll get into it with Waco, but there was a military camp. Like, you could go into any war zone, and that's what was in Waco. It makes no sense.
No, yeah, Waco gets absolutely insane. Before the pee break, the federal agent that the boy shot did die.
Yeah, the 14-year-old son.
Just to clarify.
So the through line, just
That's
before
awful.
we take the pee break, is Tim McVeigh. He's the one that ties the Waco bombings to Waco. What ties him to Ruby Ridge is... what ties him to Waco is he's there at Waco, and then Waco is a direct result of Ruby Ridge. So you got to start with Ruby Ridge, and then Waco happens because of Ruby Ridge, and then you get people like Tim McVeigh fucking pissed off at the government for doing this shady ass shit. I'm not saying it's justified what he did, but we're literally creating these people.
Yeah.
Because of the response. And then you say it's intentional. It was... We'll get into it. I'm going to take a break.
We'll get into it.
Here's the waiting screen. We'll be back in like 5 minutes. Not less than that.
Yeah.
And we're back. Everything's unmuted too, so nailed that transition.
Looky there. Look at you go.
I think that was the gist of Ruby Ridge. Really, it's just building the case, kind of leading behind what led to the shit show in Waco. It was seen as like not a mass, but a very large failure on the part of these federal agencies.
No, that ties into a little bit of Waco, and that the ATF, it wasn't just Timothy McVeigh thinking that they were awful. It kind of set the tone for the country that because obviously this dude gets off on all charges, and they have to pay him $1 million a person who survived and $100,000 for the deaths.
Well, that wouldn't have happened until a few years after Waco, but
right. But it was out that he did nothing wrong, and this was the government's actions on this thing. So they had a bad public opinion on them was bad, and so it kind of informed some of the actions they took at Waco. But we were talking. You had mentioned that they were very revelatory in their Christianity as far as the Ruby Ridge family goes. The Weavers.
Might have been the best way to put that, but sure.
That's the way I put it, though. And so the Church of the Branch Davidians, I kind of know the whole history now, which is weird. It starts in 34.
Dude, yeah. I didn't realize it went back all the way to fucking... Like, there were people before the Branch Davidians on that land for almost 100 years. Not 100 years, but 80 years.
Yeah. So Victor Hotef starts it. And even back then, he was talking about the 7 seals and interpreting Revelation. They were trying to put into modern context Revelation. So like the 4 horsemen, they were like, well, that's an allegory. What could they be in real life? Obviously, it's death and plague and whatever the hell the other ones are. Famine. What's the 4th one?
Man.
Like greed or some shit. Who knows? Anyway.
I think you're thinking of the 7 deadly sins. The 4 horsemen were just to bring on the apocalypse.
Yeah, but they all represented something. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This isn't Bible study.
Yeah, no, they were just contextualizing.
That's Sunday.
That's on Sunday at 8:30 a.m.
Yeah, right.
Monday Night News.
They called themselves Davidians after King David, them being the children who would inherit the earth at the end of Revelation.
Man, that doesn't matter. I'm not going to say that.
They bought Mount Carmel, which is where they live. It's right outside of Waco. So
they
I'm
named it
Mount
Carmel.
Yeah. And it's after an Old Testament story about Elijah where he challenges the prophets of Bet or something, some other god. I think they were supposed to prove who God was real, and I don't know that story. So it's a lot of Old Testament stuff. I don't remember that. It's a bunch of names all in a row lived for this long. You ever read Genesis?
It's not fun.
Yeah, it's like
It's not fun to read.
Old Testament's pretty dark and scary stuff.
Revelations is scary.
They grow
but that's
this
New
church.
Testament. Sorry.
Yeah. They grow this. Yeah, I cut you all off. I'm sorry. They grow this church from 35 to 50 to 100,000 people. They didn't all live at the Mount Carmel compound, but it was like it was a growing sect of Christianity.
It was like a worldwide. It was like almost like a what do they call branches of Christianity?
Branches.
No, I mean like
Sect.
no. There's like a specific denomination. It was almost a denomination of Christianity at this point because it was global. It was like New Zealand, Australia. There's people in Israel.
It was so I think they started Seventh-day Adventists, and then they went to Davidians, and then
the Seventh-day Adventists church is what is the Clinton piece that ties her in.
Oh, interesting.
She endorses their like beliefs 100%. There's like an interview of her in the early 90s or 80s of saying like I appreciate your values and what you're trying to do and all this stuff. It's like scary video.
Interesting.
Yeah. Just to tie in Clinton because fuck the Clintons.
So in 46, a new guy joins. His name is Benjamin Roden, and he said he got his teachings from the branch, which is a reference to God somehow in the Bible, and that is the name for the new sect called the Branch Davidians. Eventually, he takes the church over. I'm going to skip some stuff. This isn't that interesting. New guy takes the church over. They become the Branch Davidians. He eventually buys the plot back. This guy dies, and his after he dies, a dude named Vernon Howell moves there.
Vernon Howell is David Kushner.
Don't say that again, because you don't know his last name, and that was the big payoff, and you ruined it.
I thought you were mistaken. I mean, not mistaken, but
Vernon Howell moves in, has an affair with the widow of the guy running the Branch Davidians, and she dies. Then the son takes over. His name is George. George and Vernon Howell are competing to take over this church, basically.
Hang on. I'm not trying to... I'm just going to correct you. Whatever his name was, he dies. His wife takes over, and her son George is setting up to take over after she dies. That's when Vernon comes in. It's not an affair. Her husband's dead. She's 77, right, 78, and he's 20. He's like 21, 22, and comes in and gets with her.
Okay, sorry, I said affair.
It's not that the affair was an important piece. I'm just saying like there is like a 60-year age gap.
No, I skipped a lot. I thought I said I skipped a lot.
My bad.
Anyway,
you did.
The son and Vernon Howell are fighting for this church. It gets crazy. There's like gunfights and shit. No one goes to jail, but Vernon Howell gets shot. And then Vernon moves his group across town. Then one of George's people who goes to his church, still at Mount Carmel, tells him they think they had a revelation from God, but that's what Vernon Howell said. So he murders this guy with an axe and then goes to prison. And then Vernon Howell buys it, takes over, renames it Mount Carmel because the other guy had named it Rodenville because his last name was Roden. Renames it Mount Carmel and changes his name to David Koresh after David, and the Hebrew translation of the King Cyrus.
He didn't go to prison, George. He went to a mental institution. Just FYI.
Oh, well, there you go. That's probably more correct. And then, so eventually David marries a 14-year-old.
Damn! That's awful.
No, it's actually an interesting story. He got kicked out of his first church.
It is awful, but before the year 2000, the legal age of consent in Texas was 14.
Also, he asked...
Really? 100%.
He also asked the girl's father gave him permission to marry, which was also made it legal.
I think it's a terrible, terrible thing, but it was
That's
legal.
awful.
It was
I
legal.
agree.
It was legal
at the
then.
time.
Maybe he was a bad father. You ever
There's
think of that?
everything that David was doing, like he was staying within the bounds of the law. Like he was very meticulous about not triggering some of these law enforcement agencies because he knew it would be the doom. So he was very, very closely following some of these laws. 14 is a fucking gross age for this, but I'm just saying like it was within the bounds of what was legal.
Okay, so here's the scenario.
No, don't. No, we're not going to talk about that.
Nope. I don't want to go
was
any
gonna make
further on that
something
one.
up.
It's fucking gross. I can't. I'm kind of embarrassed as a Texan. I think there's some other states that were far worse than we were, but 14's fucking gross.
That is gross. That's disgusting.
I only bring that up, and we're only having such a deep conversation about it because that instance is used to claim that the children later are being abused because there's a pregnant 14-year-old walking around, which, kind of fair enough.
It's not good.
He got kicked out of his first church because he told the preacher he was going to marry the preacher's daughter. She's 14.
He told
preacher
the
said no.
pastor that God told him, I
Yeah.
am to take your daughter. Yeah.
And then the pastor was like, no, get the fuck from around here.
Yeah, I agree with that pastor. Get the fuck out of here.
And then he got that girl pregnant.
Oh.
That's where that story ends. I don't know what happens to her.
Oh my god.
I don't think that's right. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep fact checking you. I think he got a 15-year-old girl pregnant before that, and their family disavowed him, said, you're not going to have anything to do with us, and kicked him out. And so he went on like a very dark period and then found his way back to a church and then restarted the whole cycle and targeted the 15-year-old pastor's daughter, and he fucking kicked him out. And then he ends up in Waco.
Okay, gotcha.
There you go.
Damn.
Thank you for the clarification. I have.
So he knocked up two different girls.
No. He knocked up the 15-year-old. He didn't get to the pastor's daughter.
I got you.
They kicked him out before he got to her.
Before he got to her. Okay.
So let's stop talking about pedophilia. As far as his values, there's a reference to the Lamb of God coming back in Revelation, and he thought it wasn't Jesus, but he thought it was a Christ figure, and he considered himself a Christ figure. So he believed that he was capable of being the Lamb of God.
Sounds like Charles Manson.
Yeah,
dude. The backstory between these two people was very, very similar. Like it's like a 14-year-old woman that gets pregnant and has a son and has to like give him up. Like their backstories between Manson,
Kind of line up.
dude. They're very eerily similar. It's like,
yeah, and so also to get a little more similar, Manson thought his followers were going to come out of hiding and win the end of the race war or whatever. Koresh thought his people were the mentioned last army of Christ or whatever, and they were going to fight the Babylonians in the final days.
it's like they're all following the same playbook.
Yeah, and so the media pushed them as a doomsday cult, and it's kind of easy to when they're following the book of Revelation and they think the world is going to end, but they didn't think they were going to bring the end upon. They were trying to decipher what it would look like and be ready for it. They did think the world was going to end in their lifetime, but they didn't think they were going to cause it. They weren't going to commit mass suicide or whatever.
Right.
But the media calling them a doomsday cult made them seem like Jonestown, so they got a bit of a I don't know,
Bad rep.
Yeah. And then so eventually David in 89, he gets a revelation that he's going to have 24 kids. And so another one of the stories that was put out in the media is that he was having his way with all the women, making it seem like more a cult. And he kind of was. He had a shitload of kids. But he thought it was a message from God to have 24 so they could lead after the world
He called
started
it
over.
seeding. He was supposed to seed a new generation of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only aside I want to add, a lot of the negative, I mean, it's fucking gross what he was doing, but a lot of the negative connotation tying to him was because he had a rival within the church that got kicked out.
Yeah.
I can't remember the fucking guy's name, but all of the claims of child abuse came from this guy that was burned.
Oh, actually, I have. Give me 5 seconds and go to the watch together.
Can we get off dancing Woody Harrelson?
Yeah. doing it now.
Yeah, I
so
saw that video. I
Today
can't
we're
believe we
gonna
watched
talk
that.
about the Branch Davidian.
this is Wendigoon. This is an excellent YouTube channel that you should all follow.
Don't tell me what to do.
Should.
Okay. That's
I'm
fine.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Go to 2335.
Me?
I'll do it. It is not easy to skip on this. 20. Close enough. This is the guy.
1987, Mark Bro, a self-proclaimed prophet
Yeah, that's
from
the guy I'm talking
Honolulu,
about.
Hawaii,
Yeah.
joined the Branch Davidians at Mount Carmel. He was asked to leave
This
in
fucking guy.
1989 when he tried to take over the leadership of the Mount Carmel Center from David Koresh. Mark Bro vowed revenge. He called several international agencies and made allegations against David Koresh
This is what I was
of
talking about.
adulterous sex, child
Right.
abuse, and gun stockpiling. In 1992, Mark Bro was provided a golden opportunity to get his revenge when a disc jockey named David Jewell became embroiled in a custody battle with his wife, Sherry Jewell, a Branch Davidian who lived at Mount Carmel. Mark Bro approached David Jewell's mother to tell his sordid tales of sex, abuse, and guns.
At least it did to outsiders. See,
Sorry.
the weird thing.
Pause it. Okay. He has excellent clips from the time, so I clipped them all too. But we're just going to look at his stream to do it. Yeah, so that's a crazy rival guy.
No, yeah, he's
Holy
the
shit.
one that was generating all the negative like child abuse claims and stuff like that. And so,
Yeah.
you're gonna get into the CPS and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm trying to build a case that they built a very bad rep very quickly, partly because of that guy, partly because of David Koresh, and they became viewed as like a doomsday pedophile cult or whatever that never left the thing. But they all had jobs like in town and stuff.
They own like a fucking car shop.
David Koresh had a band that played in local bars, and like I don't even think they were playing Christian music.
So that was the other Manson piece, is that he wanted to be a musician.
Yeah,
Oh,
Like he
wow,
moved
yeah.
to California and tried to get signed and all this stuff, but couldn't make it. So
Yeah.
he went back and started a cult. Is that just like if Conor Oberst didn't become a musician, would he be running a cult right now?
yeah, no shit, weird. Ooh, what would his cult name be?
Despotitos.
Yeah, right. 1992, CPS investigates, but they rule no evidence of abuse and drop the case. But it shifted public opinion when that happened.
No, that was the CPS piece I wanted to talk about. So within the jurisdiction of child abuse claims, the CPS is the ones that go and handle those claims. And they did, from what I read, was a thorough investigation on child abuse claims. So they went out to the fucking compound, interviewed the fathers, the mothers, the children, and they're like, no, everything checks out. I mean, it's at least within the bounds of the laws.
Yeah, technically she's his wife. And so at that time, they had a follower, Paul Feta, who owned a gun store and had a FFL.
That's the license to
He's
sell some of these guns.
Yeah, I didn't look up what FFL stands for.
I don't know what it
Firearm.
stands for, but he's the one that was in charge of the acquiring and procurement.
Yeah, and so this is kind of per what you were saying, they were doing everything above board. They were they turned a hobby into a money-making thing. So they would buy lower receivers, build the rest of the gun out, because you have to register the lower receiver. That's the part with the trigger on most guns. And so you have to register that. It becomes a gun. And then they built the rest of the gun out and would sell it at
Gun shows.
what are they? Gun shows. There you go. But they were doing it all above board. But in 92, a UPS worker delivers their package and a box fell open, and he saw training grenades and black powder and I think aluminum blocks. Like they may have been milling their own upper receivers. I'm not really sure. And he reported that to the sheriff, and the sheriff told the ATF.
Right.
And so the entire purpose of the raids is because they thought that they had machine guns. And there's another interesting point on this watch together about the law at the time around that. And it might still be, I don't know, gun laws very well. Let me make sure it's the right time. I'm sorry. Yep.
But because you have to pay your taxes for it.
Machine gun fire in itself is not evidence of illegal activity. It is legal to own a machine gun if the owner pays a $200 tax on the gun. but there was no evidence the Branch Davidians owned any machine gun at all. So, bottom line, the raid on February 28, 1993 was launched because the ATF merely suspected that the Branch Davidians might have a machine gun that they had failed to pay a $200 tax on.
No.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, so they
swooped in because they didn't pay the $200 tax.
Yeah, they invade Ruby Ridge because the dude didn't go to court and sold them sawed-offs. And then they invade Waco because they thought they had machine guns.
Right.
And so that comes from a noise complaint from the sheriff.
It was
Or
like
from
a
it.
nearby farmer that went to the sheriff.
Right.
Yeah.
That went to the sheriff, and then the sheriff went out there and was like, oh, y'all were just firing very fast? Okay. But, like, looked at everything and made sure they didn't have machine guns and shit.
No, there was like a list of firearms that are highly illegal, like that you're not supposed to have, which is what they used as evidence to say, hey, we need to go fucking kill these people. Not kill them, but, go in and intervene.
Mm-hmm.
Everything after the fact, the 1995 investigation, none of those guns, none of those weapons were found.
Yeah, because they didn't exist.
They
Actually,
weren't there.
So this is jumping ahead a little bit, but just to further cement this idea, eventually the ATF has an undercover agent in the compound.
Rodriguez?
Koresh knows that he's an undercover agent and like doesn't really give a shit.
He's like
But
being
in
open and honest with the guy.
Yeah. In an affidavit, that guy says that he saw upper and lower receivers for AK-47s as evidence that they were trying to modify them to make them fully automatic. But an AK-47 is a solid body gun, so the upper and lower receiver are one piece, and you'd have to like plasma torch it in half to get two pieces out of it. So even like the FBI's own warrant that they got so they could show up and go in or whatever was bullshit because there's not an upper and lower to a AK. Maybe he mistyped AR. I don't know.
I can't remember, but at some point the same hostage negotiation team that was in Ruby Ridge gets involved.
HRT, yeah, they come in a little bit later.
It's
come
actually
the same people because it's
they
what,
come
6
in
months later?
under the child abuse claims, right?
Mm-hmm.
The piece that I was reading was like they had no authority. It wasn't their jurisdiction to follow up on these child abuse claims. It was the CPS's job, and the CPS had already written it off as everything was in check. And so, what were they even following up on?
No, the FBI didn't show up until an ATF officer was killed.
That's right.
On the scene, but the ATF used the child abuse, and
That's what it was.
When David Koresh bought that land from the crazy guy George, there was a meth lab on the outskirts of it. It's a large piece of property. He told the sheriff, and the sheriff took it apart, and they used that against him in the warrant too. They were like, there might be drugs because there was a meth lab. Here's him telling the sheriff to take it down. There might be child abuse, which we have no purview in. We also have no purview in the meth lab, but also our agent saw pieces of a gun that doesn't come in pieces.
I do want to reiterate that because I don't know if you David is the one that notified the authorities of the meth lab, called the sheriff, hey, this is going on my land. I need you to come clean it out. Like he's the one that reported it, got them to clean it up. Just to further prove the point that he was trying to keep everything within the legal bounds.
To further prove that point, the ATF goes to that guy that owns the gun shop, and the guy shows him all the paperwork, calls David Koresh, and is like, hey, the ATF are here. They were asking about Mount Carmel or whatever, and he was like, tell them to come up. Then the ATF go to the sheriff, and the sheriff said, Koresh said we could just go over there. Like, if you want to look at it, they're willing to let you look at it. And then the ATF starts this insane campaign to not intermingle, though. So they buy a house across the street, claiming they're
fucking crazy
college
piece.
kids.
Like he seems so cooperative at every step of the way. Like he knows there's this undercover agent in there. He's like literally having open conversations, showing them his arsenal. The thing you just mentioned, the sheriff and all that stuff getting involved, and he's like, come on up, let's have a conversation, let's talk this out. And they like do everything they can not to talk to the guy. Like, let's go buy this house next door so we could spy on it. And then
Rodriguez, get in there.
one of the videos I saw is like Koresh would go jogging every morning, and he would intentionally go in front of that house, walk, and build a routine, like a pattern of like, hey, I'm here. If you really want to grab me, you could literally send a patrol car or pick me up. Like, there's no reason.
There's a video. Okay, so a lot of things happened during the siege. I'm going to jump ahead to this point. There's a video where they had given a camera to the people still in the house during the siege, promising that they would take the footage and air it because Koresh wanted the people to know what was. He knew that they had a bad reputation. He wanted to be like, this is who we are. They lied and didn't air it. But in that video, he says, you could have got me when I was jogging. You could have got me when I was going down to Walmart. You could have got me anywhere in town. Like, why'd you have to come knock on the door? And the reason he's so pissed off about them knocking on the door is because they didn't knock on the door. They started firing upon them.
I'm not trying to jump ahead, but are you going to specifically touch on Operation Trojan Horse?
No, I don't. Not sure I know the operation name. I might know the story once you start it, but go ahead.
So when the ATF first starts this would have been today 30 years ago, Operation Trojan Horse. They knew they had to sneak attack the guy because they knew there was an arsenal there. So they're like, the only way that we could be successful in this is go on a sneak attack, right? And so in classic form, right, they build up this secret operation called Operation Trojan Horse, tell the media, hey, we're planning on in going into Waco, into the Branch Davidian, and like taking it down.
There's going to be a hot raid.
For whatever motivation, they go to the media and say, hey, this is going to happen on this day. We don't know what time, but it's going to happen on this day. So some rogue journalist goes out and says, hey, I want to watch this happen. So he goes out and starts trying to track down where these people are at, comes across a mailman going, hey, do you know where the Branch Davidian is? Like, I'm trying to find them. That mailman was David Koresh's brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And he fucking immediately goes to David and goes, hey, the ATF is on their way over here right now to raid you guys. And he's like, oh, okay, bring them on. I've been trying to talk to them. Come on, let's have a conversation. The ATF pull off Operation Trojan Horse. So this is a huge compound. There's several acres of flat land, and they have a fucking watchtower, right?
Yeah.
So their covert operation is to get fucking cattle trailers on the back of dualies, haul them into this area, and raid as a surprise attack. That's the Trojan Horse. As soon as they pull up in these cattle trailers, David immediately comes out the front door waving rat flags going, hey, I'm right here. I've been trying to talk to you guys. What the fuck's going on? And there's a lot. I mean, we can get into it, but who opens fire? Yeah. Who opens fire first? But they literally just start blasting.
Okay. And
fucking
so
enter the Danny DeVito meme.
Yeah. Here's what my understanding of what had happened was, and it's very similar to Ruby Ridge. It turns out that they had a team dedicated to killing the dogs.
That's the piece I hoped you touched on. So that was one of the things is who opened fire first. After the investigation in 95, 100% the dogs were shot first. That would have been the ATF shooting the dogs.
And it freaked the people out in the compound. Yeah. So they returned fire, and then David Koresh gets shot in the stomach and the hand.
Yeah. So this is 30 years ago today. This is the start of the 51-day siege.
He's in front of a door.
The front door of the compound going, hey, I'm right here. Why are you fucking coming in? There's children. Stop. What are you doing?
Yeah. The front door, though, is two doors. There's a left door and a right door. It's like French doors or whatever. The right side was taken and disappeared forever because it had the proof of entering bullet holes in some manner. I mean, there was bullet holes everywhere, so I don't know. I think it had Koresh's blood because they shot through his hand. I think it was right hand. This is how the siege starts. The ATF shows up and all shit goes crazy. There was a dude outside in the back. They had a helicopter with them, and it was strafing the back. And they think that the helicopter just heard fire and started shooting because the whole back of the house gets shot up. They shot through water tanks.
Yeah.
The Davidians had 3 of them. They shot through 2 of them, so they drained, which becomes relevant about 40 days into this siege because they start running out of water. But we can go through this whole timeline. So let me get back to this.
This is the start of it. This is literally... It's 51 days later that this gets
Oh, here's a point though. People think the ATF was acting the way they did because they had such a bad public image from Ruby Ridge, so they want to. I don't know in what thinking they think this makes it a little bit better if they go quietly and surprise them.
I think that was part of the motivation for going to the media. Is like, watch us, like, look how good we are at this now. And this is just the ATF at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this siege goes down, this failed siege, and a couple of federal agents die, and a couple of the Branch Davidians die, but that's what triggers the FBI.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to catch up in my notes. Right after all the fire happens, one of the members of the church named Wayne Martin called the local police, and asked them for help because the ATF shot first.
I believe it.
Okay, I'm back on track.
Are you?
Yeah.
You said the first shots were at the dogs, even though they don't know who shot first.
Well, the ATF would want you to think it was the Branch Davidians that shot first, right?
Yeah.
It justifies everything after.
Yep.
So the ATF started putting ladders on the roof in this initial gunfire. The first little thing lasted for 45 minutes, but it didn't really last end for 2 hours. But first 45 is very hot. As they're climbing the roofs and trying to get in the windows, they're being shot off the roof. A dude hit his head and fell off the roof, so they have to pull back.
I heard the only reason they stopped is because they ran out of ammo.
Yeah, that's the only reason they stopped shooting, but they stopped trying to go in the house because they started dying. There were 4 agents killed and 16 injured, and 6 Davidians killed and several more injured. This is after the first gunfight. And then later that night, they went to bury their dead. Weird. Sounds a lot like Ruby Ridge. And one of them was shot and killed while burying the dead. And then that's when the HRT comes in. They were the same team that was at Ruby Ridge. But Koresh starts doing interviews on the phone to like news stations and stuff. Right. So the FBI cut the phone line.
I feel like that came much later. I'm not trying to jump ahead, but I feel like there was a direct line of communication between some of this. Like, they didn't cut the media out until like 30 days in or something like that.
Yeah, no, they didn't cut him out until way later, but they cut off the Davidians pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
And took a phone in there to them. Because the media is going to turn if you let David Koresh go, dude, they ran up and started shooting.
That's what I was talking to Salsa about before, right before the show, was like, how could this couldn't happen in this day and age, right? Like, if somebody in that compound had a cell phone with internet access and you're just on Twitch streaming, live stream, like what the fuck is the government doing? Like, we're peaceful people. There's children in here. Like, they're shooting at us right now. Like, we would be up in arms. Like, we would be out there defending them, but they isolated them from the rest of the world.
Right.
And wrote them off as fucking extremists.
So Koresh does this a couple times, but after a few days, he made a deal to get one final message out to the news, which did end up happening. And he said he would then remember or surrender. They played his message on the news, and then he said, God told me not to come out yet. So he reneged the first deal. But during this is when the ATF and the FBI kind of go crazy.
I don't think that piece is true. So I watched 2 different videos, and one of them was very pro-government, like, here's why these people were so bad and like how it went wrong. And then that was like 15 years ago. And then there was a video about a year ago where a guy was going through, like, I feel like the actual facts of the event. Mm-hmm. His deal, part of the hostage negotiation was like, hey, I've got this tape that I recorded. If you play it on the air, for every time you air it, I'll release 2 hostages. He held up that end of the bargain. They played it on the air. He released 2 kids. They repeated it. He released 2 kids to the teeth. At the first part of these negotiations, 14 kids were like sent out because they were working with them. Yeah.
And so it's very easy to go, oh, they were hostages or whatever. Most of the people didn't want to leave.
Right.
But at this time, he was like, this might get unsafe. Let's get the women and kids out. So he's doing these interviews and saying, okay, y'all go or whatever. But as soon as the women and children leave, they're separated and they can see the women being arrested and the kids being taken somewhere else. Turns out the kids were being taken to be interviewed to ask if they had ever been abused. All the tapes don't exist, and they all said no.
No, that was part of the slander. The other guy, the rival leader that was trying to take over power, that was part of his narrative, is that there was abuse and like getting the CPS involved and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But every other side of the argument was Koresh was saying like everybody's free to leave at any point. Like we're not hostages. Like you could walk out at any point. They chose to stay.
Yeah. And so
I mean, the children might not have, but the parents of the children.
After that, they stop. After a while, he stops. And the people in there are going, we're not leaving. We're not being separated from these children. We're just leaving these children out here to be in government hands. Ain't no way that's happening. So they stop doing that. Then the ATF and the FBI start torturing them overnight. I have a video of this that we need to watch. It's the same video I'll watch together.
All right.
But it's like actual footage of what they were playing at them. They were shining bright lights and they had huge speakers.
Yeah, playing like clown music.
Yeah, and that kind of harkens back a little bit to the MK Ultra shit.
Yeah, where they learn this stuff.
Yeah, MK Ultra for sure. Oh shit, where'd I go?
A jump cut too early?
No, I'm just bad at this. Oh, that ain't it. It's 106. God. Good enough.
God, that's such a terrible sound.
All night long? This is what you're hearing? You already think it's Revelation.
Facing a banner reading, God help us, we want the press. Reporters respond.
Yeah.
God help us, we want the press.
Yeah, they were...
They had cut them off at this point. They weren't allowed to talk to anybody. Press weren't allowed in. At this point, I think they took the press and moved them 2 miles out.
Yeah, they moved them 2 miles away. They could still see the compound, but they couldn't hear what was happening. And they couldn't really see what the government was doing.
That should be such a fucking red flag, dude.
Yeah.
And the ATF agents were mooning and like flipping people off. They were pretty brazen about being dickheads out there.
Oh my God.
They make another video on day 9. That's the one I referenced earlier. And the FBI didn't show it. And then they had huge tanks or whatever. And they were running over the bodies that had just been buried. They were just like circling the complex. And they cut water and power. But the Davidians only had 1 tank of water left. I said that. Outside the compound, this is when the media circus starts, though, because they were like selling ice cream and T-shirts. And that's why they were pushed back, because there was like a frenzy outside this compound. That's where I think there's videos of Timothy McVeigh selling shirts with the sniper from Ruby Ridge's name on it, who was actually there that day. Funny enough, right after this day, he got his gun rebarreled, so you couldn't track any of the shots he took.
Jesus.
And at this time, so they moved the press back or whatever. And then Janet Reno, she's the acting AG under Bill Clinton. She convinces Clinton that it needs to end because children were being abused and it was getting expensive because he just wanted to wait them out. And then after the fact, when it came out there wasn't any child abuse, she said she was worried other militia groups would join and take back Mount Carmel. Which she probably already knows that PatCon operation is happening.
Yeah, because they were tied in with the Franklin report too, and all the children that were in that.
And so day 51 is the last day of the raid. There's madness all up in there. There's no end to what you could find. Do you have anything else before I get to the last day, Jeremy?
We were talking about making this a 2-parter. I feel like there's a lot of little nuances in between all of this. Like it's a 51-day event, right? Like, you mentioned the power and the phones being cut and stuff like that. There was a lot of motivation for the Branch Davidians to cooperate. Like they wanted like celebrate their Sabbath and stuff like that. So they were trying to get power and like electricity. There was stuff that the government was intentionally doing that was like, this is going to be a very cold, windy night. Let's cut the power off this night and see if we can freeze them out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it didn't work. So then they were like, oh, if you release a couple more hostage, we'll give you power back. Or something. It was just like a back and forth of like trying to get these people out. And they called it goodwill, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the Davidians were so resolute in not leaving.
How many of them were there? Did it say?
At the last day, there's 82 people. 23 of them being children.
Damn.
And so at the beginning of the last day, we'll just go through it. We can always get back to Waco if we ever need to. I'm sure it'll come up again. They surround the house with tanks and punched holes in the walls with tanks. And the Davidians start shooting at the tanks.
Hang on.
Obviously, you can't do anything to a tank.
Hang on.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not trying to cut you off.
No, have at it.
I feel like you're bulldozing over some very, very important stuff. They're poking holes in the building so they can like pump gas.
Oh, that was my next sentence. Yeah.
Okay, your next sentence then.
They start pumping the house with CS gas, which is a tear gas.
To the point. So 2 months prior to Waco, the UN has a convention and holds that nobody can condone chemical warfare. Specifically this CS tear gas stuff. Like you can't do it within these certain mixtures. Right? So the US, as part of this agreement, signs off on it, says, hey, we won't condone it, we won't do this, we won't participate in, this chemical warfare. So what happens? They have a surplus of all these chemicals they can't use anymore. And so what do they have on their radar? Oh, we have this event in Waco. Like, there's our justification to get rid of this surplus of chemical that we can't use anymore. So they come up with a strategy of poking holes in the building and then pumping it full of this flammable gas.
They claimed for 6 years that they didn't get any equipment from the military base. And then it comes out that they had an entire mock complex where they were mock raiding it before they went there. They trained at a military base. There was something else that was super sketchy about it. It's further down in the notes. We'll get to it. So they start pumping CS gas. CS is a powder, but it has to be aerosolized. They claimed that CS wasn't flammable, which it is in powder form. And then the aerosolized thing, I didn't write down because it's a long methyl, but it's like, it comes out like hairspray. You can light every type of hairspray on fire ever. The gas that they put in there was flammable too. They fill the house with this dust and shit.
There's like strict protocols. Like the mixture of these chemicals have to be like very, very minute. Like it has to be like 1 part for however million or something like that. Like it's the very smallest amount of stuff. They superseded that completely. Like this stuff that they were pumping in there was lethal amounts to kill people. Like the intention of this gas was to like tear gas, just to like make them feel uncomfortable and kind of get them out. They
pumped enough to suffocate them.
They pumped it full enough to kill full-grown adults, and there were kids in there.
Yeah, they knew kids were in there, and they did that. And so, in the response of the Davidians at this time, they had a bunker, and they moved the women and children into the bunker because their gas masks didn't fit children. So the men had gas masks on, and the women and children went in this bunker.
You get into the thermal flames.
Yeah, here in a second. They had thrown that phone that the FBI gave them out the door when they started gassing them or whatever, and then they pulled it back in, waved a white flag out of an upstairs window, and unfurled a banner that said, "We want our phones fixed." They were trying to call and be like, "We're fucking dying." No,
the military vehicles, the tanks rolled over the phone line and cut off the phone lines. And they're like, we're trying to give them a heads up. Like, you cut off our only line of communication. Fix the phones. We're trying to, like, talk.
Yeah. Give up because the kids are suffocating in the basement. At noon, all that CS gas gets lit on fire. And 9 people make it out of windows. This whole time, 3 days earlier, David Koresh had said I have a new revelation. God wants me to finish my interpretation of the 7 seals, and as soon as I do that, we'll all come out unharmed. I just need 2 weeks to write this thing. They took him typewriters and like had proof that the ribbons had been used, so they knew he was writing shit. One of the 9 people that comes out of the fire is holding like the first 2 of them or something. Like he had 3 days and he got the first one done, 1.5. And obviously his follower's pretty devout, so he grabbed it and jumped out a window. The fire department shows up and the FBI stops them because they said they didn't want them to be shot at. The entire inside of this building is on fire. You saw 9 people try to escape. All 9 of these people in the court case testified that everyone was in a panic and just trying to survive at this time.
I bet, man.
In the movement of the tanks, they had busted the escape tunnel to the bunker, and something impinged the door. I don't know what it was. I didn't get that detail. I'm sure part of the concrete structure in front of the bunker got in front of it, because when everything burns all the way down to the ground, they never stopped the burning. And the most of the men left were trying to get the bunker door open, and they found their bodies in front of the bunker door trying to get it open, and all the women and children were in the bunker dead.
That's the part I wanted to stop you at. So whenever they started pumping it full of tear gas, they took the children and put them in the underground bunker, which was just a buried bus, right?
Yeah.
Because the mask didn't fit. The FBI had planes flying over the compound with thermal radar. So they had people on thermal cams everywhere within the compound. They knew where everybody was. And so they see people getting put into this underground bunker, and they roll tanks over it and collapse it.
Yeah.
That's where all the children were at.
They collapsed the door and the escape hatch. I don't think the bus itself collapsed, but it
did.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's insane.
Because they rolled over it with fucking tanks.
Yeah, but it was buried. I like, they couldn't get out because they found them in there. And the reason I know that is because when CS gas is lit on fire, it turns into cyanide in the air. It turns into poison. So like half the bodies they were all burnt beyond belief, but most of them probably died of poisoning first. Not smoke inhalation, inhaling cyanide, which is CS gas being lit on fire. David Koresh's shot him in the head. David Koresh's assistant shot him in the head and then killed himself. And there were a few other bodies who like died of gunshot wound because people were dying. They were being poisoned to death and burning alive.
Jesus.
This is a government at work.
There was some conspiracy over how the fire started. Are you getting into that?
I read about that. Yeah. So the FBI had the house bugged, so they knew what everyone was saying. And they released a section of that recording where it sounds like they're trying to start making Molotov cocktails
to combat the tanks.
Yeah, the Davidians were making Molotov cocktails. But they did it out of context, and the people who got out said that section of time was when the tanks first rolled up because they couldn't fight the tanks because the gunshots were obviously not doing anything. But the FBI is using it as like they started the fire. But after the fire, they find like 40 millimeter noob tubes, like grenades, like Call of Duty.
No, it's grenade launchers they were using to shoot the gas in too. So they had tanks pumping this stuff in, and they had people with grenade launchers shooting canisters of the gas into it. They specifically used incendiary rounds. So they're like the bottom part of it is like a rocket that shoots out fire. So you have a flammable gas in this canister, and then you attach a rocket with fire shooting out of it
into the building.
That seems pretty fucking intentional.
And for a long time, they claimed they didn't shoot any shots or have any pyrotechnics on the last day. but obviously they did.
All
They
the
found
evidence
those.
after the investigations were done a couple of years later, like they found these incendiary cartridges, like all littered, all expended, all around the compound. They were 100% used to shoot these canisters into the building, and they had rocket propelled fire on them. So you have, again, the gas that's flammable being shot by a rocket with fire into a building full of this flammable gas. What started the fire?
Yeah, it's like, where did COVID originate? That's a different conversation. Anyway, so that day in the aftermath, the ATF takes down, or the Davidians had a Star of David flag up on like a big ass flagpole. They take it down and replace it with an ATF flag. And they're like taking pictures in the rubble where they had just killed 23 children. They killed 82 people and 23 were killed.
22 kids.
23.
And they're raising flags. Like they just conquered some kind of foreign land.
Yeah.
This is biblical stuff, dude.
At one point, this is the sketchy part that the FBI was in, like, they kind of knew there was going to be a fire. During the negotiations, the FBI asked them if they had fire extinguishers. Someone went and looked and they only had one. And they told him that. And the negotiator said someone ought to buy some fire insurance.
What's your weakness right now? Do you guys have a plan for fire? No?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to write that one down.
And so that first day when they ran out of ammo, they got more of that ammo from that military base. Like, they were fully militarized.
No, that's what I was trying to speak to about Ruby Ridge, like the response to this stuff. Like, there was a straight up military base set up outside of Waco. Like, like hundreds and hundreds of troops per, like, one branch Davidian.
Yeah. So when when the first kids left, 5 people left with them, 5 adults. So 12 survivors were charged and 8 were convicted of like gun charges. They're all out now. But they did go to prison. And Clinton used it to justify his 1994 assault weapons ban. I think they were arrested for having like illegal weapons. Like they weren't even arrested for shooting at the ATF.
That makes no sense at all.
Yeah. And then there were a bunch of trials. I didn't really get too far into the trials. Because I was watching the Murdaugh trial, if I'm being real honest.
We can get into the trials next week if we want. Or if we're diving onto something else.
Yeah, I don't know what the next bridge would be too. I don't think the trials would be a whole episode though.
No.
Yeah, I don't think it's a whole episode, but I think there is some stuff to follow up with for sure.
Let's say we don't have a segue.
I mean, the alphabet agencies is a segue, so literally anything that they're involved with.
For sure.
Shoot up.
I don't feel like we did this justice. I feel like there's more that we could probably talk about. I don't think it's a whole episode.
There's definitely more. Yeah.
But
we'll come back to it at some point, I'm sure.
There's plenty of content out there. There's a Netflix series that's really compelling. The video I watched, I'll share within some social media realm, but
yeah,
they fucking went in and murdered these people, dude, on bullshit claims.
I'll drop my video link in the Discord. Everyone go join the Discord if you haven't.
Very nice.
Are you doing that?
Hey, look at that. Harmless self-plug. Shameless self-plug.
No, there's a lot of good content out there. Like, we're not obviously experts at this point, professionals on high-quality content, but there's Netflix documentaries. There's plenty of YouTube videos around this stuff, but do your homework. It is the 30-year anniversary of this thing. This is probably the deepest I've dived into it, but it is very...
a dude named Dustin Thibodeau, something like that. He was a survivor, and he wrote a book, and he's
the guy that was backing up stuff saying like, no, we weren't trying to burn it out, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, definitely one of them. There's a really good like C-SPAN book interview where he's releasing the book and talking about his time in the whatever. But they use that book to make a series, like a mini series called Waco.
Is that the one on Netflix?
Hell yeah.
I don't know if it's the one on Netflix. It might be.
I did just share it in the Discord though, so it's there if anybody's interested still watching. But that's the one I watched that was maybe a year old at this point. That was very, I don't know the best way to say it. Enlightening. Not government propaganda.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't know.
That's what we need.
I don't know. I don't know.
So what's next week?
I don't know if we necessarily need to announce it right now. We'll come up with something.
We can come up with it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a plethora of
Options.
series. Yeah.
Cool. Do your homework. Don't trust the government.
Let's do
Question
plus.
everything.
Question everything.
I'll go first. Big Screamy.
You're there. What do you want
Make
playing in
me
the
Big
background?
Daddy. I don't care. My name is BOC Wasabi. You can follow me at BOC Wasabi on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube. There's no content on Twitch or YouTube. Go to The Rolling Third on YouTube, all one word, youtube.com/The Rolling Third. We're live every Sunday evening at 8. It's like a movie trivia game night party type feel.
You did Gartic Fun last.
We did do Gartic Phone. That was fun. Don't watch that video if you're afraid of penises.
Don't watch any Gartic content if you're afraid of penises.
Fair enough. That's a good point.
Is that yours?
That's me.
All
right.
Drake, you're
I'll
going
go
next.
next.
You
Yeah,
got-
I can go next.
You got August 28th playing in the background.
Fuck yeah. It's a great song. Abel Delilah is who's playing right now. It's the band I'm in. I play drums. You can follow us. We have some shows coming up and some new music coming out. We just got some graphics for when we put it on Spotify and all that. So go check us out. You can get merch at abeldelilah.com. You can follow me if you want to on Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. On my YouTube channel, it's Inked Beats on everything. On my YouTube channel, I did post a little Call of Duty clip a day or so ago, and it's doing really good, so help that. Let's get those numbers up. Thank y'all for all the support.
Rookie numbers.
Those are rookie numbers. We need to get those numbers up.
It's weird you're talking about masturbation right now. But anyways, I'm BOC Molasses. I do this show every Tuesday live at 7. Right? 7 o'clock. We do have a merch store. I won't say what I usually say about it, but here it is. If you want some of this stuff, send me pictures of your leggings if you get them. But
Yes, please.
missed the entire show, Sprinkles. You're still very welcome. Catch it on YouTube tomorrow, right? That was the other plug, is that this gets immediately uploaded to YouTube within about, let's say, 48 hours, to be generous. Other than that, I do Funny Nut News now on Sundays, 8:30 a.m. We just kind of talk about politics, current events specifically, no general topics other than weekly events. So catch that. It'll help us out get affiliated on Twitch. Outside of Funny Nut Theorios, I do Molasses streams, just playing video games with my buddies. Probably going to jump on Age of Empires here in a little bit with those guys, if they will have me. They won't, but I don't want to say I do music, but occasionally you might get a music stream out of that. What else? Did I forget anything?
I don't think so.
Sounds
All
like
right,
you
guys.
got it all.
That's our show, episode 7, Waco, Ruby Ridge. We might follow up on some of it next week, but stay tuned to our social media to catch what next week's topic will be. We'll catch you on the flip side. Bye, guys.
Love
See you
you all.
Sunday.
Love and peace.